Wow, it's a
I,
Well, good morning. Good morning. It looks like we're live. We're live. Another session of Vault Talks is here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Saturday to everybody. Maybe it might be Sunday, Monday, whenever you're catching this. If you're catching it on the replay, definitely make sure you let us know. #replay. We're super excited that you're here today. Saturday, if you don't know, now you know, is always full of something here on Vault Talks Women Share. So we're really excited. It's the second week, and we have Liz's segment coming up, Debunking Debt. So we ready for that. Isha's here in the building somewhere. So it's always a good day. We're missing one of our sisters, Tanisha. We're sending much love to her today, and she'll be catching us on the replay. And we have our guest co-host, Onyx. She is chilling waterside, so she might catch a little bit of the show coming in and out. But if you didn't know, since Vault Talks Women Share has been in existence, June has always been the month dedicated to the men. So we have to continue that even now that we're doing the virtual experience. And we're really excited about today's topic. So as you know, there's a lot going on in America from COVID. Now we're shifting to, what feels to me as if we're back in the 60s and protesting and rioting as we should, in reference to just the fair and equal treatment of African Americans in this world. And so we could not have a show dedicated to hearing the voices of Black men in America and the feelings that they have around what's taking place in these interesting times that we call the home of the free and the land of the brave. So with that being said, for those of you who may be new to Vault Talks, thank you so much for tuning in. So Vault Talks originally was a radio show that came out of Chicago, Illinois, where I am from. And I met these amazing women who are here today through that outlet. And since then, we've shifted, and now it's Vault Talks, the virtual experience. But Vault Talks is a platform full of empowerment where women can come together and learn more and share more about matters pertaining to their world. So on this platform, your heroes talk about relationships, love, entrepreneurship, sisterhood, and of course, ways to be empowered as women. But like I said, June is dedicated to the men. So we have two dynamic men coming to the platform a little bit later, one being Timothy Moore and the other one being Michael Young. Both men out of Omaha, Nebraska, and they definitely have a lot to say in reference to what's going on in our world. So we're very excited to bring them to the platform a little bit later. But now, as you know, maybe you don't know, but you're about to find out. Here we go. Quiet is quote time. So I'm going to go ahead and read your quote for you today. I'm going to give you that honor since I was last week.
oh, thank you.
And it goes a little something like this. Things have to be unlearned and relearned in order for real to take place. Things have to be unlearned and relearned in order for real change to take place. Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah.
Now that is definitely fitting for what we're going to be talking about today. I can't even express how bullseye that is. So if you guys didn't know and you're tuning in for the first time, Isha the Influencer, she creates all of our quotes for Quiet It's Quote Time. So you can always follow her on her Instagram page, Aisha the Influencer, and you can catch more of her amazing quotes there. So let's dig in. Since I was gone last week, I'm last.
Well, both of y'all were out last week. So the quote is, things have to be unlearned and relearned in order for real change to take place.
Yes. I'm going to start off with that. Hey guys, grand rising to all my kings and queens out there. Um, so yeah, the things that we were brought up knowing, I think our primal time to really learn anything is in between that age frame of baby to 3 years old. That's when you learn and you soak up everything. And then the adolescent years are all about just, seeing what's in front of you and playing on that and seeing whether or not you can get away with it or not. And those things actually become your habits, okay? Your everyday, daily beliefs. And I truly believe, because I'm going through this process as we speak, of unlearning the things that we were taught as we were not of age as a child, okay? Because there's a lot of things in there that, don't allow us to move forward, or because it damages or really limits our beliefs into who we are. So it's so powerful that we need to really take time into account to relearn some different things in a different way, and what's going to benefit you and what's going to really show um, or propel you to be the greatness that you are, to live out your purpose on purpose. So really just tapping into that and really just taking into account. I think the best way, from the way that I went about it, was really just tapping into my inventory, things that really started to, whether I took it as an offense or whether I took it as something negative, or whether it was just something that, was a great memory. And I just had this conversation with my mother, like, thinking about what was a great memory as a child growing up. And I literally told her, I was like, I can't think of any right now, which is bad. But because I'm going through such a detox in my life of unlearning certain things, it's like, I don't know what's really good, because I'm trying to sort through the bad apples. So I'm, so learning, and relearning on top of that now, it's saying, what do I want to believe in?
Right.
Because it's never too late to change into what's real for you. Because if you're staying the same, then nothing's actually going to be real for you, and you kind of get stagnant, you get complacent, and you should always be wanting to change. So your real, it should be change. In that,
Right.
like, greater than, real, or change greater than equals real. Because I believe that, living beyond that truth, living beyond what you were taught, is really going to saturate your life and really propel you to be the person that you are always meant to be. Really sitting still and saying, giving yourself those pity parties that we tend to do.
Right.
I tend to do it. Or, staying in a bad relationship because you feel like that's all you deserve, when you really deserve way more than that. So it really taking into account those things.
Yeah. I think it definitely affects a lot of areas of life. I think this quote here is very broad. Like, it covers pretty much everything, because, like you said, we are taught certain things coming up, and we realize as adults, okay, this doesn't serve me right now. Maybe it was good for me during that time, but as we learn more, okay, now let's not do this, let's do that, because this is what is going to, like you said, put me or push me to that next level. But when I came up with this quote, I was more so in the mindset of what we're dealing with now as far as racism and, the climate of that right now. So just, we say racism is taught, which it is, in most cases, and it can be unlearned as with everything else.
Right.
So just, learning to love and accept people for who they are, and really understanding that we are all, human. And I was thinking about the term Black Lives Matter, and it made me think, like, when did life have a color? Like, life is just life. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's just like we shouldn't even have to differentiate color. This life matter. This life, like it's just life, and we understand that. But given the way that things are, it's sad that we do have to say Black lives do matter. Um, but yeah, that's why I was coming from with the quote, just knowing that certain things that we were taught it was probably for that time. We don't have to carry it throughout because it will not serve us or do anything for us in this time. Things change,
Yeah.
and you have to keep up with that. So, you know, 1 plus 1 is always going to be 2. But at the same time, if you were taught, white is better than black, you see now that it's not going to serve you in this day and age. Because look at where we are now,
Right.
with the riots and that type of thing. So, just knowing that education, education is always key, and it's always going to keep you on top of the game and where you need to be in current times, to where you can operate effectively where you are. Because us, like with the world divided like it is now, we're at a standstill.
Yeah.
Like we're not really, we have to come together to make the change that we're trying to see.
Indeed.
So in order to do that, unlearning, and people are saying like, okay, what do I need to know? What books do I need to read? How can I be more
Yeah.
aware of what's going on? And
Yeah.
and that's good, but you know, this has been going on for a long time.
Right.
This is not
Never stop.
something right. This is not something that's new.
Wow.
So just I guess making people aware and acknowledging the fact of what's going on, I guess it is a push in the right direction. um but yeah, I can't wait to see what the men have to say around this topic and how they feel about it. But Sakara, what do you
Man.
think about this quote?
So much going on. I mean, from traveling from where I was to get here, where I'm at right now, just in the past couple of days has been an eye opener. So I was wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt and went into 2 establishments, and 2 Caucasian people stopped me and were like, "Where'd you get your shirt? I want one. Did you make that?" And just asking me all these questions, and I was like, normally that's a change, because normally when I walk up in a place and there's Caucasians, depending on where I'm at, they're looking at me and they look at me and they keep on moving. They don't really pay attention to what
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing, or they do and not make any reference to it because they're not in agreement with what my shirt says. And so
Right.
it was mind blowing to me. And even one of the places where actually 3 places, now that I think about it, all within an hour and a half, I said, "Okay, God, what are you showing me?" Because, like I said, I've had this shirt for 2 years, at least 2. And so I was like, "Oh, I bought it on .com." We're like, "Man, I want one so bad." And so we were just talking as they were serving me, and it was just the awareness, that that desire to know how can we make it better as Caucasians? How can we make it better as Latinos? How can we understand, what's really taking place from you guys' perspective? And when I even say you guys, and some people get offended, but it is that whole African American culture. Like, how can we understand you? And it's been interesting to me because some of my Caucasian friends have literally reached out to me and was like, "Takara, I'm not understanding what's going on. Educate me, help me understand, so I can get a better understanding of how y'all are feeling right now." And so, even just me walking around with my Black Lives Matter shirt, it showed me that people are in a place of wanting to unlearn the conditions around being a
Yes.
racist, and understanding like what a racist is, what is discrimination for real. So it's been an eye-opening week alone, just me rocking that shirt and people asking questions, and I've never had that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I've wore that shirt so many times it got lint balls, you know what I mean? So it's just like, wow, now in today's age and what's going on, there's this desire from a lot of people that don't look and sound like African Americans, that want to be a part of understanding what's going on. And the crazy thing about this is that we know history repeats itself, right? So a lot of this reminds me of what we've gone through in the 60s, the protests, the sit-ins, all these things that are taking place. And so it's just interesting to even see that there is such a desire, like, okay, time out, I'm done, I'm over, the fact of all these Black people dying, especially it's more Black men than it is women. What is this about? And so just the education around it, that is being to the forefront and or being brought to the forefront. And even with businesses, that's shocking me. You have Amazon talking about Black Lives Matter. You have Uber talking about Black Lives Matter. If you pay attention to Netflix is showing up Black movies right now and educating Black people other people about what Blacks have gone through. The Help came out back in 2011, 2012 on Amazon. On Netflix, it's been one of the top 10 movies here that people have been watching just this month alone. So that lets you know there's some awareness being brought to the situations that are taking place in our world. And so, sometimes we are so conditioned to our little bubbles where we don't realize that there's a huge world that's out here and, that are going on. And so, I'm loving the fact that people who are shouting Black Lives Matter don't look like me.
Yes.
For me, it's like, wow. And one of my friends from Virginia, I'm getting ready to add her, if Onyx can share if she's available. She does a lot of protesting and things of that nature. She's an activist out there and has been live in the streets for the past 10, 12 days, Onyx? She's been out there.
Yes.
So, just be able to hear from your perspective, the quote that we're talking about is things have to be unlearned and relearned in order for real change to take place. And so, around what's going on in today's world, I'm sure, just even with what you've been serving and paying attention to in your local area of how you're seeing this whole unlearning and relearning thing take place.
So one of the things I'd like to say is that, I'm sorry, let me close the door so I can get this background noise out the way. One of the things I'd like to say is what I'm seeing with the unlearning and relearning is a lot of the, what I always tell people about is the PTSD that we are born with, and then the generation of the genocide, the mental genocide that has happened within the Black community. So what that means is that there have been over 400 years of toxic behaviors that were sometimes imposed on us and sometimes that we created ourselves in order to survive. So when you desire freedom, but you don't understand how to get it and understand that you're in a certain type of bondage, even though you have the appearance of freedom, there is a process that you go through that's even painful at times because it forces you to release certain relationships and connections that you've had. And we've had to face that over and over again. But I will say what has happened is that the people, once they continue, because having that conversation is a hard conversation to have, but when you have that conversation and follow it up with action, it inspires people to listen and it inspires them to try a lot more. So what we've actually encountered over the last 10 days is a growth daily from people of all races that have been willing to join the fight for justice, because not only do we have to unlearn as the African American communities, but there are a lot of our white counterparts that have to unlearn, because we can't forget that we were told to lie and so were they. So one of the things that we continue to talk that we are aware of is that we're forcing conversations, and when we're willing to listen and not immediately call somebody a racist, because there are racists and we have encountered racists. We've had guns pulled on us, we've been hit with cars, we've had a lot of different things happen with us. However, there have been some people with a racist stance that have actually walked up to us and were willing to have a conversation in the midst of our protest and agree to disagree on some things. And some people have actually picked up the banner and stood with us and asked to continue the conversation. So unlearning is just an ongoing process. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm still unlearning things. Everyone is still unlearning things. And the biggest thing is that we have to remember is that the point where I am now, I didn't get here yesterday. So I have to remember when I greet my brothers and sisters and my allies that I have to remember that it took me years to get here. So the expectation that they get to where I am immediately is an unfair expectation, and it's a
Yeah.
dangerous expectation, and it sets the wrong narrative.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I could
Definitely. And
definitely.
like you said, with even with our community, like we have to unlearn things because we have been systemically brainwashed to think that we are lesser
Yeah.
than,
Mhm.
you know, um other races. So we treat ourselves within our own community with that same hate and that same disrespect that we're demanding for that respect from other people, but we first have to give it to ourselves. We have to know that we are not less than, and the way that they see us, because that's why there's always been that tension, because they think that they're superior. Some of them, I'm not going to say the whole race, but some of them think that they're superior, and then we feel as if they are, because we compare ourselves to them in such negative ways. Like we grew up hearing like, oh, you act like you white, or you think you white, you think you better, that type of thing. And it's just like, well, you're comparing, but that means you think that they are better,
Right.
because you're saying, you know what I mean? So we do that unconsciously. And it's just like, are we being racist towards ourselves? So we have to bring that same energy within the community and be willing to love on us and respect us and do all the things that we expect them to do for ourselves.
You're absolutely right. One of the other things that I've learned is that we give them way more grace than
Yes.
often give them more grace than we'll give each other. So that's one of the things that we
Hmm.
continue to teach. Like they can have an experience with a person that's not black, and that we will make excuses for them. But when we have an experience that's unfavorable with a black person or a person of color, then we're immediately ready to jump on their necks and say all types of bad things, and we're immediately willing to disassociate ourselves. But that is because of what you were saying, the things that we were taught, that we were less than, and that white was right. So if white is
Hmm.
right, then even though I know that there's a struggle and something that's going on with inside of me, I'm going to defer to whatever they told me was whiteness until somebody stands up, until somebody leads the way, until somebody actually shows us that it works. And that's one of the things that we have to remember as people of color, that we come from a show. We're a show me culture. So
Mm.
the talking is good, you know what I mean? The speaking is good, but don't, we get tired of talking. So it sounds great that you want to do this and you say this, but I want to see you do it. And the group of activists that I am with, a lot of time, we've been doing this for a very, very long time. It's been extremely active over the last few weeks. Because we've had new situations injected in things that we were already fighting for. But we come from a show me city. So with the most recent protests that we led, so many young people, black and white, were out there, and they were walking up to us, and they were feeling inspired, and they were just like, they were so proud to be a part of this cause. And what I want to say about this generation here, they had me scared with eating Tide Pods and stuff. I ain't even gonna lie. But they have shown up in a way that I don't think anyone has seen people consistently shown up since the 60s. They stand by, they fight, they speak up, and it doesn't matter to them if you're white or black. So a lot of our support has come from Generation Z, which are not the millennials, it's the generation right after that. And you would not, I didn't expect that from them, but a lot of our allies, whether they were black or white, has literally come from people that were 25 and older, and they have been the most willing to learn.
Hmm.
Wow. That's awesome.
Right.
What would you say to those who are unable to get out there in March? What would you recommend that for the people that are just, kind of like house written on that end?
What I'll say is there are multiple ways that you can protest out and help with the movement, and that's what we always say. So that I let the people that can march, right? Because literally marching is I exercise every day, and we have marched for something almost every day, and the way that my body hurts, I couldn't imagine inflicting that on someone that was 75 years old, because it's literally like you're doing calisthenics while you're moving. There is nothing There is completely nothing like it. I thought I was prepared. I wasn't. But what I do is say there are multiple ways to be involved. It's spreading the information. A lot of people help financially, making sure that we have waters. We need people's help on social media. We need social media managers. We need people that can help with organizing events. We need everything that you would need for a regular event, another in a regular business. You need that when you are an activist. So activism, people think activism is just showing up. It is much more than that. Like, we have to get logistics. We have to, if we're going to boycott something, we have to figure out what's the best time of day to impact the money. If it's going to be a public nuisance so that we can impact traffic, we have to find out what the traffic patterns are. We have to make sure that we have lawyers in place. We have to make sure that we have bail money in place. And that's the way that our team moves. We have to make sure that we have all of those things. We have PR. Her name is Kimberly Wimbish. I told Takara about her before. So she's a PR person, and make sure that the news media is there, and make sure that we're controlling our narrative from beginning to end. Because when you don't have all of those pieces in place, you may have done something good, but the narrative can very quickly get away from you, which almost happened to us in our last protest. But we aren't new to this, so we were able to make sure that we controlled the narrative of what happened.
That's good.
Right.
That's
Because
powerful.
we do understand that other people are showing up to these protests or riots or what have you with a different agenda. So
Right.
they're provoking the violence, making it seem like it's the protesters that, want to respond and react in a violent way. But, they come and kind of implant that in that atmosphere just to kind of, create a different type of environment when people really just want to peacefully protest and be heard.
Right.
Absolutely. One of the things that happened is, I don't know how many of you know this, but I am a gun owner. So I have multiple guns, and I at the very least have one gun on me or in reach at all times. At one of the protests, when we led a protest because of disparity in treatment at Chick-fil-A, we ultimately shut that Chick-fil-A down with the corporate office, issued a public apology, and we have been negotiating with them. So what we've done is fall back to not physically protesting, but the city is still soft protesting them and making sure that we don't spend our money there. But what happened during that protest is I left my gun in the car because I didn't want to introduce that type of energy, because we were out there peaceful. But I was willing to match the energy, because what happened is Kim, the PR public relations specialist that I just mentioned, she a white male pulled a gun on her. And at that point, it was like, okay, so we're gonna have to make sure that we're protected. Once we were armed, the amount, you would be amazed at the amount of conflict from those that wanted to cause harm, how that really de-escalated them. Because if you think about the history of our movement in Black America, when you think about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all those things, a lot of things were able to happen, and we were able to be massacred because we were not armed. After that incident, multiple women educated themselves on gun ownership, and in our next protest, it was 4 women, including me. We were outside with our guns visibly there, because even during that protest, they did not see the gun, but then they threatened the male. A white male came through and he threatened the man. And once he kind of seen that we were armed, he drove off. But it could have easily escalated, because my belief is that they don't expect people of color to be armed, because we are generally not. We are generally unarmed, especially those that peacefully protest. So we are generally unarmed, and we are at the mercy of whatever happens. Again, we don't ever want to introduce that energy, but we are prepared to defend ourselves. And that is a difference in how we actually protest. And there are certain people in the movement that we always know who is armed. And so it's never anything like a surprise. So we try to make sure that we know that the police officers are familiar with us now. So when they see us, they know that we're going to have a gun on our hip, because we're women out here. And especially us, we do have men that protest with us. But for the most part, the people I roll with, we're women in anything that happened.
Wow.
That's
Right.
amazing. I just love the fact that people are utilizing their constitutional rights and just really standing up for what they believe in, and understanding that we are the change to what we want to be. And so if we're out here, making our voices known and our actions lining up, here's the change, and this is just the beginning. It's really exciting to see, like I said, companies like Amazon and Hulu and Netflix, talking about Black Lives Matter, and just even where I'm at today. We were talking to some people yesterday, and just to be able to see, the graffiti that is on some of the walls on businesses that are boarded up talking about Black Lives Matter. It's impressive to just roll through a different city to really see, this is just going on in your city and your state. This is a worldwide thing, and to understand that change is really happening.
I think that we're finally getting it. So my grandmother raised me and she was a protester, right? So I always got it. So that part was easy for me. I guess a lot of times, like you guys, you would hear people like, what are you protesting for? Like, we're like, what do you mean? What are we protesting for? We're fighting for our rights. We're fighting for equality. But now that so many of us, and not just Black people, white people, people of color, Black, brown, whatever, we're all uniting and understanding that when they come for, like, once they come for one person, because this is what happens when they oppress one group of people, right? Once they're finished with them, they move on to the next. Then they moved on to the next. So if you sit idly by and let them do something to us, then when they have completely done whatever they're going to do to us, then you're next. And then the next person is next. So I think that what has happened is that we finally get that the power, and we're finally understanding the power of our dollar, and that is what makes protest work. When you understand the power of your dollar and your voice, and there are a lot of you uniting together, that is what makes protests work. And I think that we're finally getting it. So it's not like if you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll see if I post something or a win, because it's important to celebrate your wins when you're in this when you're an activist or an advocate, because you're fighting so much. So when we're posting these wins, it's kind of like them. And I always say them, why, with a question mark, and I'll say us, and then I'll post what the win is. Because it's important to post the win so that you can understand the power in protest. Protest has now, protesting and making our voice heard has made the president change his rally from Juneteenth to some other date. Protesting again has companies like Nike recognizing it as Juneteenth as a national holiday and are paying their employees for that. Protesting has exposed people like Starbucks, who we believed in the first time about the when they did the unconscious bias training, and they came out and said they support Black Lives Matter, and then somebody who was a dissenter and is down with the cause leaked what that internal email was, so that we can then hold Starbucks accountable. So that's another part of protest, holding people accountable for what they say. Because what happens with us is that we have often been bamboozled because we believe what these companies say, and then we believe them without making them put their actions into to work. So I mean, putting their words into action. So what is happening now is we're learning that, okay, I'm glad, like we're doing with Chick-fil-A. Okay, you said this, but until we see it, and we see it consistently, we are not going to tell our people not to. We're going to continue to tell our people not to purchase from this particular Chick-fil-A, because we have been bamboozled too many times by the system, by big corporations, by our leadership, and some Black leaders. Because it's important that we understand too that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And I say that because a lot of times we will stand behind somebody because they are the same ethnicity of us, but that doesn't mean that they're down for your cause. And that's why voting is so important. We had a rally where our state senator came out to make sure, Senator Louise Lucas, to make sure that our voices were heard and that they were not using the laws against us. Because she stood with us, what has happened is that there are people that are that want the status quo to stay in place, that they want to try to remove her from office. But we're standing with her because we need people like her in office. We need people like her on the right side of history. We need people like her that is going to stand for justice, no matter who it's for. So it's important that you recognize your allies, because we also have people of color that have been completely mute. And they talk about everything else, but now that the world is paying attention, they have been mute because they're worried about their bottom line. But we put you in office so that you can push the agenda forward, so that there's equality there. But at this time, you choose to be silent when we need you the most. So that means that we have to make our voice heard, and we need to remove you. That's the power of making sure when you protest that you inform people on voting in their local elections, because that's what determines your day-to-day life and how harshly you'll be impacted by everything else.
This is so rich.
And that's something that I feel like we have to understand more is, just that system of who's in place and what powers they have to make change in our area, because we feel like, okay, we don't have to vote. My vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter. And we don't even know what these people have the capabilities of doing for us or to us. And we just let, whoever and whatever take those positions and just deal with, the consequences and whatever comes after that. And it's just like, okay, that's where we have to unlearn that your vote does matter. These people hold these positions for a reason, and what they do does have an effect on you. And then we do have to exercise that right to vote, because our ancestors fought for that as well. So we have it, and then we just take it for granted. So we don't really just exercise that right. But I think this is the start of a new age where we do understand, like, the judicial system and everything that, people do not bother to even, realize. Like, we don't know what's going on in legislation. We don't know who the governor is, who, the senator is. Some people have no idea, or what they even do. So just, knowing, learning, educating yourself, and exercising that power to make those certain decisions. Because especially in the South, like, I'm in Mississippi, and everybody knows the climate of racism here. And I mean, it started here. So, some of the people that's been in position in offices have been there for a long time, and they have this certain mentality in the way that they run things. We've been in the news recently with a mayor who said some very disrespectful things about George Floyd in that whole situation. And so we've been having some protests of our own here. Never would have thought, a little town in Mississippi would have made it to national news. But that just shows you the attitude and the climate of how Black people in America are looked at.
Right. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Like when Fox News released the stock prices, and they compared it to major people in the African American community getting murdered, and what happened to the stock prices right after that. So I'm like, you're still looking at us like a number, like we're less than human. They had Martin Luther King listed, and what happened, how well the stock increased after his murder, and when George Floyd was murdered. And when I saw that, I just was like, America is still so tone deaf. And seeing that was like, so you guys are tracking what happens to stock prices when we get murdered? Like, for me, it was just like such an eye-opening moment. And because a lot of times you don't even recognize or see that until they put it out there, that, wow, you're still doing that. You're still treating us like cattle. We're still a number to you. You know what I'm saying? We're still, this one is worth $500. This is worth this many shares. So this is what you guys are still doing in 2020. And you wonder why. And you wonder why we can't give up. You wonder why we won't stop. You're still disproportionately sentencing Black men to prison higher than any other group. And you wonder why we won't stop. You're still murdering us. And you wonder why we won't stop. You know what I mean? We've been waiting for 401 years. We believed the lies for 401 years, and I just believe time's up. And this new generation, coupled with people like us, they're like, time is up. We're not going to take your word for it anymore. You need to show us.
Yeah.
Definitely but that comes with educating, like I said, us within our community as to what their agenda is. That's the only way you can really win, is if you study your opponent. We have to know what they're really up to, because there's a rhyme and a reason for everything that is taking place. But most of us are not aware. Like you said, they do look at us as less than humans still. If they didn't, we wouldn't be still dealing with the things that we have to deal with. but we have to understand the power of our dollar within our community. And I heard someone say, they don't bother the Jewish community because they control, they have so much wealth within them. But we are dispersing our dollars, out to them. We're making them rich. We don't have anything that we're investing in for ourselves. And that's why people are pushing support Black businesses now, which we should have been doing that. But it takes time for us to learn just how powerful it is. Like, we don't have the same constructs as other people, or privileges or knowledge as others do. That's why they flourish in business. And we fail most of the time because we are not business minded. We are creative. We're the most creative group, I think. We can come up with anything. But as far as, the business side of things and actually making it work and run properly, that's something that we can educate ourselves on more in order to get certain things flowing, like we see our counterparts doing. So it's just like supporting and helping each other. But like I said, that unlearning and relearning is definitely key for us to look at each other and value ourselves before we look out to someone else and say, okay, respect me, treat me as such. You know what I mean? We have to look at each other and do the same thing.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things with us is the biggest things is that we don't believe in ourselves, because if we take the time to learn our history, we know that everything came from us anyway. And that's just not being, but what has happened is the insecurity that has been placed in us because we're not good enough. So even when we do go into business, we get intimidated by the paperwork or things that would make us much more successful, because they made us believe that we weren't good enough. And then it was reinforced generation through generation through generation through generation. So that's why I say it takes a while. It's going to take a while to undo that, and some of us are able to break freer a lot easier than others, but some of us are still in that cycle where someone is still telling them that they're not good enough, that they'll never make it, that they're not smart enough to have their own business, that they're not creative enough. So what happens is we post our ideas on social media, somebody else steals them, and they continue to get rich off of the culture. Because one of the things that I say is everybody wants to be Black until it's time to be Black. Because everyone loves Black culture until it's time for you to deal with what the people that, like us, that create Black culture have to deal with on a daily basis. So everybody wants to be Black until it's time to be Black. And that's why I too always say that all lives matter will never be true until Black lives matter too, because we never say our lives matter more than someone else's. We're just saying our lives matter too, because the Black Lives Matter movement, I don't get why people don't get that, because I would never go to someone who has breast cancer and say prostate cancer matters too. You know what I mean? Like, people don't think about, they don't think like that. I would never go to I just would never do that. And it doesn't make sense, but only when we protest. The other thing that we have to remember is because America does a lot of trying to tamp us down. America loves a protest until Black people do it. If what was happening in America was happening in any other country, American news would be covering it and saying this is democracy in action. They would send money over to help. They would cheer for it. They would stand up for it. We would be condemning their presidents. But what has happened, because it's happened in America, you have a lot of the top leadership not really willing to address the issue, and they're trying to blame the riots. So my thing is this: if you have more issue with riots than the murder, then you're part of the issue. And one of the things that I continue to tell people is that America has a bloody history, so I don't really care what they got to tell me about how we fight for our freedom, because they fought a very bloody war for the freedom of America. I make sure that people understand that the first official act of war for the Revolutionary War was the Boston Tea Party, and what that was a riot. And the very first official death in that was Crispus Attucks, which was a Black man. That means our blood literally fueled your revolution. So America has a very bloody history that has not let up at all. So I really don't care what America has to tell me about how we should fight for our freedom and for equality and for the respect in the country that we built for free. So it's time for y'all to pay us for this overtime that we put in.
We never got our reparations.
Nope. And we more than likely will.
Well, this is an amazing time to segue. We have both our men who are going to be taking us in our topic today, being a Black male in America and what that's like. So, Timothy Moore and Michael Young, thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you guys so much.
No problem for having us.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. There you go. It's like we can't hear you. Okay. So, Michael, share with us a little bit about who you are.
Well, you're cutting out just a little bit. I think you said, tell you out who I am a little bit. Well, first and foremost, I'm a father. I've got, yeah, 3 beautiful kids, 2 boys and a girl. And outside of that, I'm a community advocate. I've been spending my entire adult life for equitable access to education, as well as transportation and public policy. So I am just stepped down from 10 years of chairing the transit authority here in Omaha. I'm still over elected at Metro Community College. And outside of that, I sit on Carol's House of Hope board, where we work with aged out foster moms. And I love to turn a wrench. And you can see right now, I'm an advocate of tattoos and just being a bro out in the real world. I was running for Douglas County Board. We'll go into that a little bit later about what it's like to be a man of color running for public office. But I'm just ready to share these words, and I love hearing what the women were sharing earlier.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Tim, you want to share with everyone who you are?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Timothy Moore. I'm a vision, perspective, and perception coach, and I help small businesses, entrepreneurs, and couples break through barriers so that they can have a clear, concise, and compelling vision and live the life that they dream. And so I've been in computers for about 18 years of software development, a side expertise in cybersecurity. I love dealing with prison outreach, so I did that for 5 years. Going into prison, just helping young men just change their perspective and help them, using the word to help them get to a place where they can be thriving in society. And just glad to be here, excited to share, and whatever I can input into the world, I'm glad to do it.
Oh, no problem. So, everyone knows we out in our world today, especially Onyx out there in Virginia, who's doing a lot of different things as she's the activist. I've been knowing her for 2 years, seems like so much longer. And she is such a powerful house out there in Virginia. She doesn't stand down for nothing. So I love it. So, we wanted to create this show to be able to get your perspectives, as you and Michael, just on what it's like to be a Black man in America during these times. Michael, if you want to go first and just share some insight with the people, that'd be amazing.
Man, what it's like to be a Black man in America. What it's like to be a perceived Black man in America. What it's like to be a biracial man in America. Man, I tell you what, it's tough times. First of all, what it's like in the office versus what it's like in the store, driving my car, what it's like at home, they're all different. I wish it was the same. And, what I've got to do right now is I feel like I have to be this advocate for folks out there who aren't talking. And there are folks who are scared to go say, me too. And there are folks who are say, here's my story, but how do we change it? And, the one thing I'm trying to keep right now is, the fire was lit 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago, and the whole country, whole world was talking about something. And right now, it's gotten quiet because it's not on social media, because the protests aren't as crazy, because we don't have those looters and rioters going as crazy. The peaceful protests are still going on. But now is the time to be lit, to really be talking about what change are we going to expect? What change are we going to implement? And for me, being an advocate in a community and me being a person who's elected, that's where I'm at. My fire never went down. And so the difference is when I walk around looking like this, as opposed to when I've got my suit and tie on, I get treated worlds different. When I act more white, more acceptable. And, right now, I don't care no more about that. I'm gonna be me. And it feels good to be me. And this is the first time I've ever felt that way, that I'm not having to fight to have it hurt. And so what I'd really love to see is that we have got to come together. Don't let that fire go out because it's not trending, because Trump's going to go say something crazy, or because he's going to go to Black Wall Street on his new campaign day on Juneteenth. Don't let them take our fire. And for me, I want to keep that lit. And we've got to keep doing that. So I'll talk forever on this. Y'all know me, so I'll calm down. But and you know, just like the day the conviction came out with James here in Omaha, James Scurlock, and no charges. I mean, come on, man. Look, I can't even get out of a speeding ticket. He gonna get no charges, and I had to do something in that world that day. Right, the expired permit, Tim. Man, I don't know what's going on your end, but you guys are cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it's just me or everyone else, but man, I tell you what,
it's probably us.
Okay. When he had no charges, I want to talk about privilege, man. I mean, how does that even happen? I mean, I don't even understand how leadership.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Can we give people a heads up of what we're talking about? Because, you know, this show is all over the world, literally. So people who may not know what happened in Omaha during these times, just to bring them up to speed.
Yeah, so I apologize on that. So yeah, here in Omaha, basically what had happened at the peak of George Floyd happening, 8:46, right? Omaha had its own protest, and Omaha was lit. We have our own history. I mean, a black man 100 years ago was pulled out of the courthouse and hung and burned in front of the courthouse by a mob. And so we've got our own Red Monday, we call it here. And so, because Omaha has deep black history, but the problem is you go 10 minutes in either direction, there's no real black folk kind of hanging out. So when we were protesting and collecting to give our voice about Mr. Floyd, and it got violent. Then you had Antifa rolling in. Then it escalated, and the police pepper balls and all of that coming out. Then National Guard, and it's just no different than anything else. Who's got the bigger gun? Who's going to react? And it shut people down. Well, protests got a little out of hand. People started going a little crazy downtown, and a business owner, a well-known white supremacist who's treated minorities, even myself, has gone to his place and seen how he can be, was down there protecting a building that he didn't even own, and he had a lease, with a gun being brandished with it, with an expired permit, instigating
shooting
with his
twice
dad.
in the head.
Yes, he shot 2 shots fired. With a CCW, you're not supposed to do that. And then, let me tell you, I'm an advocate for guns, but I'm saying I'm a smart advocate with guns. And so when he shot those 2, James Scurlock came in to shut him down, to protect people around him, because this guy's acting a fool. They got in a scuffle. That boy pulled his gun, popped that boy in his neck. He died right there.
Wow.
And so in the midst of having an expired CCW, already staying around a business where insurance was going to handle it, a building he didn't even own, he just leased, didn't make no sense. This boy went down there with a gun, even posted on Facebook, I'm going to protect mine, in a military fashion. So you want to tell me he had no charge, not premeditated? What's that, Tim?
The kid was 22 years old on top of that. Scurlock.
Just a baby. And he wanted to shut it down, no charges. I mean, for real, I don't understand how you just don't say, here's the charges we got. Go ahead and plead you're not guilty. We'll go to court. But you're going to let that man walk there in the middle of one of the most heated protests we've had in a decade, 2 decades? Come on, man. Don't make no sense.
Wow. It's like they're blatantly telling us we don't care.
We don't matter.
We don't matter.
Yep.
And so on that day, I collected about 200 folks. I went to the memorial here in town. We have a Vietnam memorial called Memorial Park. It's middle of the city. And I brought folks together and I said, this is not a protest. This is just unity. I ain't going to speak for the family. I'm not going to talk about what the police did. I'm not going to talk about the Douglas County attorney did. We need to put some love. Our love and hope batteries were depleted and we needed to charge.
Yeah.
And so I got folks together. I got the news out there and I said, we need to put something good. So being a Black man in America right now, it's a beautiful time and it's a bad time. And I think it was Onyx who was on there saying something earlier. Don't take that away from me. Don't tell me how I need to be right now because you love my rims, you love my music, but you don't like my culture. You don't like my people. You don't like my skin. That's not, get out of here. So I'm lit. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me be quiet.
Wow. That's good.
No, that's amazing. That is amazing. It's when I just had a baby and I'm so sheltered from everything that's going on because I don't want to fill my little son's mind with all the negativity that's going on TV within the news right now. And it's so hard to curate and find what's the best thing that you can watch. If anything, why are you watching anything? Let's read a book.
Wow.
So it's I didn't hear the whole story on that, and I knew the name, I heard the name, but I didn't know the background story beyond that.
Yeah, you know what's real interesting behind that, Elizabeth? I mean, I got some little ones as well here. Congrats on the baby, by the way, boy or girl?
Boy.
Okay, congrats. Having to talk to them about this. I mean, it's just an unbelievable time where I've got to talk about the racist president. I got to talk about how he incites other people. I got to talk about COVID, school shootings. Now I got to talk about homeschooling. Now I got to talk about what it's like to be a young Black man in the community. And you can stand up for your folks around you and you can still die. And the police and anybody ain't going to stand up for you. They don't treat us the same. And then there's going to be people who come out and say, people you thought were your friends. My friend list is so thin these days. That said, well, if you weren't outside, protest,
that's crazy.
If you weren't outside going to the protest, he probably would have still been alive. Come on now. Why are we out doing the protest anyway? Why do we have to protest? And my aunt, bless her heart, she's down in rural Arkansas on my father's side. And she said it just like this. They still shooting these babies just like they did us. She's still saying the same thing. Ain't nothing changed.
Wow.
Ain't that something?
Wow.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
No, whatever. What were you
no,
saying?
I was just for me, and I don't know. I know that there's this breakup, so let me know if it's breaking up too much. Raise your hand. Say, look, you're breaking up too much. But for so long, I've suppressed the fear of being Black my whole life, and this all coming out uncovers a lot of the stuff I suppressed. Growing up as a child, middle race riots, coming out after school, seeing 75 white people, 25 Black people, and they're all ready and amped up, ready to fight. And I'm trying to figure out whose side should I be on because I live in a white neighborhood, but my skin is Black. So in 7th grade, trying to figure out how to navigate. Now coming back, I'm remembering those times and I'm saying to myself, it's nothing changed, but also like it is time to address things. And I was on a talk panel before, and the action plan was to come against every microaggression that we hear in corporate America that typically we've ignored out of fear. because I feel like there's a way now that we can kind of me too, with everything else that's companies now will listen. And if you say you were in a meeting, someone said something that was off color or out the way and made you feel some kind of way, I think now is a time where we can actually speak up without as much fear and backlash. So, right now I'm with mixed emotions. What I want something with a vision. I wanted something with strategy. I don't want to just run out and protest and yell it. And I like what Onyx is talking about, how everything is planned out. They have lawyers, they got bail money, they're planning to be an activist. And that's the kind of thing I would love to see, worldwide, and even to be able to nationally rally behind that motto, that model for actually being an activist in your city or state. I would see that and just have that connected, because, we got to do better than just being in the streets. Got to do more than.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that, Tim, and I appreciate you sharing that, brother. That's, for me, being on the different boards I've been, from YMCA, everything in the streets, every demographic that you think a young black man can hit, I've hit. No dad, not because he wasn't there, he passed. All right. Single mom, living off the system, biracial, inner city, poverty, youngest sibling. I mean, you check the box, I got it. The census loves me. Okay. And, for me, all the problems that we have outside of natural disasters, all the problems that we have as a human race, let alone in our different cities, are man-made problems. Now, so maybe women need to lead a little bit more.
That's right.
But so that's why public policy is important to me. What is it like for redlining? Well, let's change that line. What is it like when it comes to property taxes and how we evict people? Let's hold property owners and make sure that we have policy in place for affordable housing, that make sure if you're not a landowner, then you need to be able to have houses around places where you can spend your money as well, because that economy matters. So when I talk about running for public policy, I've spent my entire life to be able to be here, to jump through all the hoops to get to this place. And then someone, a daughter of a former mayor, a current commissioner in our town, just files, not even under her married name, under her maiden name, and gets the vote because people think that she's replacing her dad. Nope. Right here in Omaha, Douglas County, we're going to have a father and a daughter on this. Out of 7 people, 2 out of 7 people are from the same family, father, daughter. And I've raised funds. I had commercials. Wow. I did all the things. So you want to talk about nepotism and privilege. I had to work my entire life to get where I'm at. She just had a her name. And I'm holding them all to the fire. Wow. I got all the receipts. Man. It's time. And I don't care. I'm going to make sure I don't cuss on here, because I'm really upset about this, because I just can't believe that someone can just file their name and make that change and then not even call it privilege, not even recognize it. So Tim, when you talk about the microaggressions in the office place, man, I mean, I've been in IT 24 years now, working for the city. I was having a conversation.
IT is huge on it. You know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was in a conference call, Zoom meeting, probably about 2 weeks ago. And a client, a person that, I have to work with and deal with, he was talking about how he's going to lead the project, and he called pick to the stick. Y'all know that expression?
No, I don't.
So that pick to the stick was
don't sound good.
No, it don't sound good. Pick to the stick is a Southern expression. It's a field expression where you didn't have to say go this many rows, because they wouldn't teach black folk to count and read. They just say pick the cotton till you hit this stick, then move on. That's what you did. And he said this in a way of saying, I don't want to make these huge elephant goals. They say, take a little bite. How to eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's nothing like that. He said, I want you to pick to the stick. I'm the only bro on the call. I had to interject, and I said, that ain't okay. down on the right. Just like I don't like the term linchpin. There's other words to say. This is crucial. Cornerstone, keystone, whatever you need. So
that's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be,
you know, just the. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Liz.
No, I'm just thinking about, like, as I go back, because I used to live in Louisiana as well, and the drive scene back and forth in Alabama, Oklahoma, and things like that, and the type of things that you experience, and you know, those sayings are still live and active. 10 years ago, you think that, you know, oh, you know, we've grown from that, and honestly, no, we have not, because there's still people out there doing it repeatedly every day, and take joy in doing it. And I don't want to say the wrong thing, because the way my mind is splurging right now, it's like, you know, it's so hard. Like, I'm not racist for the people, you know, or anything like that, but it's just like you tend to look at people differently and say, like, I don't like this group, or I choose not to associate myself with certain people because I don't like what they're doing, and it's not them specifically, it's everybody else beyond that. So it's so hard. It's always been a touchy subject for me. That's why I don't really go deep into it, but I think that I need to now start going into it and really start diving deep. It's opening up that passageway for people like myself, or who have difficulty touching on the area because they just don't want to. But it's like, okay, no, I have to speak up. I need to do this, and you know, every voice matters. But at the end of the day, Black lives are definitely what matters right now, because if we're not seen as a whole, what are we really doing?
Mm-hmm. You know, I think, you know, a part of me just, it's a different, like with Michael and I, you know, having professional jobs, being in professional careers, and being in more professional circles. You know, we're in a different status than, you know, the Black man who is in those circles. And for me, my heart goes out because, one, they still have a mindset. They still have respect, still are in that environment where they don't know how to navigate in a way and deal with what's going on.
That's good.
So if you in the hood, you know, if you know, work a regular 9 to 5 at Bucky's gas station or QT, and you go home, it's a completely different narrative for you. And so I just feel like there needs to be a bridge gapped between professional Blacks and Blacks that are kind of, you know, maybe on the lower end of the economic scale because they don't make a lot of money. And so there needs to be a bridge so that we can really deal with what's going on in a way that's going to be beneficial for the community, because it's two different worlds. It's completely two different worlds.
Yeah, that's true.
Man, you absolutely right there, Brother Tim. You know, that's why I work in education. You know, for me, that was one of the, you know, I don't look at these days, but I was a short, you know, poor, fat kid who ate all the little snacks. And
now.
Yeah, right. Sports wasn't my thing. I wasn't fast. My nickname was FM growing up for Fast Mike because I wasn't fast. And now it's the complete opposite. You know, I took control. We talk about Black death and even just access to food and healthy things. That's a whole nother topic. We'll talk, you know, another day. But man, bridging that gap of building up our young Black men, all people of color coming together, man. It's important to me because, you know, I went through it and I knew it. I mean, growing up in the 90s, man, it was Crip, blood, or get your butt beat if you weren't with a set. You're burying your friends over starter jackets, over J's, what street you lived on mattered everything. I mean, I can't think how many brothers I put in the dirt just because of the color they were wearing that day, or they stood up for themselves. And so to turn back around, you know, I am that gap in my family. I am the generational change, and I wanted to push that. You know,
Yeah.
I can't. His name's leaving me right now, but a great brother here in town who does real estate. He's kind of gotten into a little bit of talking and things, and he had a great saying the other day. He said, "I did not come from a great family, but a great family is going to come from me." Actually, his name's Casanova Brooks is his name. I apologize. So I want to give credit to him on that. And man, I tell you what, I feel the exact same way. Sitting in a house where I've got it, you know, I'm the only house that does the cookouts. I'm the only house that does the birthdays. I'm the only house that makes sure that everybody gets welcomed and celebrated. Growing up, I had one birthday we celebrated. And it's like, how do you bridge that gap? And, you know, Tim, you talked about that. What is it like to, one, open the door and invite them? And that's the easy part. The other part is making them feel comfortable to want to do it, make them feel like they can be invited in those types of situations at the table, right? And so for me, what I try to do is around education and get them while they're young, get them while their brain is still fresh, where they still want to, you know, have hope. Because if not, they're going to become that young cat who's just going to hustle. They're going to make the decisions that they need to. And sometimes I just deal with them being charged with stuff where other people don't get charged. It's just, oh, he was young and he made a mistake. But our people got to go for years to an overcrowded system. It just don't make no sense.
Right. And, you know, I'm glad we're talking about this because, you know, something's got to change, and we're definitely seeing that things are starting to change. But from what I see is like there's a lot of Black men that are out here hurting, and they don't even talk about the hurt because they're not in an environment that is welcome to hearing them talk about that. Meaning that you guys have to put on this face, and you have to be so strong, and you have to be this, and you have to be that. But just be able to, you know, create platforms like this, and you know what you do on the male perspective, and just being able to have an outlet for men to really rally around one another. You know, women do it all the time. And talk about this a lot. You know, women have all these support groups, and we talk about this and being vulnerable and being resilient, and, you know, owning who you are, and, you know, operating on purpose for purpose. But you don't see these groups for men. And I believe it takes men like you, Tim and Michael, to be able to, you know, be the model for a lot of these men to, you know, for them to even say, you know, I can put down what I was taught in the home to really embrace this new life that has always been in me. But now that I had accountability and I feel comfortable and vulnerable to be able to share about these things that are hurting me, because essentially it hurts the household. And you said it, Michael, you know, like bridging that gap. You know, you see things, you know, as a child, and now that you're a man yourself, you don't want to, you know, bring everything that you saw in your child home into what you're creating for your family, because you know that legacy is needing to be created. And what legacy are you building if you're repeating unhealthy cycles?
That's good. Michael has a quote that I love. We were talking about men and our emotions. And remember, Michael, and you said if men when we don't identify other emotions, we default to anger. And so when you see with Black men, there's no safe space for us to express anything other than anger. We can express anger because that's accepted. That's what expected.
Wow.
We were expected to chest stuck up and to be swole up and always on point, ready for conflict. But the other emotions that we have, there's an unlearning that's got to happen for Black women and for white women, for white men, that when men express an emotion other than anger, don't laugh. You know what I'm saying? Don't make fun. Don't turn side eyes and be like, oh, he must be this or that.
Right.
Because this is all new for us. Like, to cry as a Black man? What you mean? You know, you might get a half a tear, but then now it's like, I'm gonna go with this. You know, I'm gonna cuss you out. I'm gonna get mad. You know, not that person because I'm hurt.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad you heard that one, Tim. That's tough. I mean, By the time I was 25, I buried my father, my best friend, and my firstborn. I tell you what, I've learned a lot of emotions, and damn, I was mad at the world. You know, I emancipated myself from my mother at the age of 15. I had all my siblings were 10 plus years older. So when I'm hitting first grade, they moving out the house, doing their own thing. I had every example of what not to do. And I'll tell you, I was a knucklehead. I was mad at the world, and I had every reason to be mad. They had my dad taken from me. You know, my mom was what she was. My siblings were what they were. I had all black siblings. I had all white siblings. And then there was little brown love child Mikey in the middle. You can't call me Mikey, by the way. But but you know,
Mikey Young running for city council.
Hey, look, NY. You know, the emotion piece is real and it's tough. I mean, the only safe place I think a black man could ever really talk about something is the shop. That's it. And you don't really talk about emotions. You talk about, like, I was at the club, I was talking about the cars, I'll talk about the kids, I'll talk about work. And that's about it. And Tim, you said for us to express a tear publicly, even to our partner, is hard. Because as a black man, you show any other emotion than anger or being smooth, you a punk. You a punk.
Yeah.
And then and then I'm gonna be real. I know we're on a woman's show, but even women will say, "Oh, he's soft, he weak. I don't need a man like that. He's over here reacting like that." Well, what do you want me to be? You want me to raise these kids and tell them they can't be loved, that they got a boo-boo and I need to yell at them? Come on, man.
Come on.
Having these kids, like my oldest kid, bless his heart, I love him. Jaden, he's the greatest thing. Boy, if you're watching, I love you. You were the greatest thing I ever did. You made me the best man I am today. But seeing my younger kids and how much more patient I am with them, how much better they've shaped me to just be like, oh, you fell down. Your Hot Wheels wheel wouldn't go back on and you're over there crying, trying to fix it instead of coming telling dad. I just need to be patient and teach them that it's okay to have that feeling. Man, I tell you what, I wish I had that as a child.
Yeah.
I probably would have been soft.
Right.
You know what? I think, I don't know, Tim. I mean, you got the best avenue. How do we do this? How do we get black men to talk like this? Because even in my bariatric world where I'm the support group, I talk about Black death, I talk about our diets, and I talk about how we eat and things like that. You don't see old fat people, right? And I was almost 500 pounds, man. I've lost 240 pounds changing my life.
Yeah.
And now I motivate that in my kids and things like that. How do we get that? How do we get people to want to be better for themselves, especially black men? How do we do that?
You know, the best example, and I would say is, or the only thing I can say is to be, it's cliche, but it's perspective. And we are who we are because of what we've seen.
Right.
They've never seen black men express emotion and maintain their masculinity or maintain their manhood. They don't even know what man is. You know, my perception of a man was the cats out in the street with multiple women, with, you know, who talk crazy. The women ran to these type of cats because they talk to them crazy. And I'm sitting over here trying to figure out, she pretty as all get out. Why she with this? You know, and so my perception.
Is that why I'm divorced?
Well, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta let men see what we do and not be ashamed of it. Like, I got emotions and I ain't trying to show no shame.
Right.
You know, I remember a time back in church, and it was a difference. You know, I was in Europe and I ran this group, and I was able to create a platform for men to express emotion. Now we're in Europe, and so soldiers, these are people who need to be able to express emotion. I tried to do that same thing in the US. These brothers was not having it. It's a mindset. Like they laughed. Yeah. It was like, what? What you mean? You know, man, what's wrong with you? So I had to make a decision. It's either I'm gonna be me and do what I see and what I believe in, or I'm gonna let them basically pump me and be like, nah, fam, I ain't be like that. And I said, I know what I see. And so I know the vision that I have. And so I just gotta pursue it. So I would just say, you know, people just gotta pick up the flag and just like, this is how I'm rolling. Y'all gonna like when me and you connected, you like, man, boom, this is on point.
Yeah, man. I mean, when we first connected, it was just something. I was like, hold on. You're a sponge? I'm a sponge. Let's just soak all this up. This good ass energy, man. You know, you talk about something there, Tim, where, you know, I talk about an unchecked male with a lot of young men that I mentor. And, you know, these moms out here dealing with their babies, even some of my nephews. And it's like an unchecked male young man of any race, you know, a lot of people forget that we're still mammals, you know. And what is that little lion trying to do? That little cub wants to become the new leader of the pack, and if he doesn't have a good representation of how to lead it, right? If Simba ain't got Mufasa, he ain't gonna ever be Mufasa. And so, you know, when I tell people around me all the time, I was like, your kid gonna be just like my kid in my house. I'm gonna yell at them. They're gonna say the manners. They're gonna pay respect. They're gonna say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, may I, please, can I? I ain't gonna go hands-on with no baby's kids, and don't go hands-on with mine. But absolutely, every child's got to be that certain way around me. Now, so to come around the neighborhood, especially with COVID, we're going to send the kids over to Mr. Young's house because we need to let them know what it's like. But they won't do it to their own kids. So to me, when we talk about the emotions, you know, when we talk about just how we really are as a race, as we are as a people, you think 100 years ago, the only thing we had as a culture, as a Black culture, was our style. Could nobody take our music? Could nobody take away our clothes?
Wow.
And so our swag, our style was the first thing we were able to own, for real. And so my glasses had a horrible glare. I hope you guys can see me because it's a little tough. I'm trying not to squint too bad. So when it comes, you talk about you had a better experience in Europe, but you try to bring it here and you were treated like a punk and they were talking to you like that. Man, that's ridiculous. And the reason is it's just unbelievable how much that culture is. I talk about it even in the schools that I work with and mentoring. A young Black man sitting down, listening, paying attention to the teacher, and even when the teacher shut him down, as he should, or he or she should, as a teacher, shutting them down, he'll look like a punk because he didn't stand up, he didn't act out, because that's what is expected out of us. That generational bullshit has got to stop. And that gets taught by kid after kid, parent after parent. Listen, I believe this old adage. I'm not saying throw the first punch, but you handle it. But that does not always mean with fist and anger. You handle it. And, you know, right now, that's the thing that I just don't understand with it. A lot of Black men, they're so mad, they're so angry, they have so many reasons to. But how do we not educate them to say, how you been doing it? Obviously, bruh, ain't working. You can at least take a step back and see that, can't you?
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of them don't want to hear that. And so for women, I'm gonna flip this a little bit. Can I ask the question? As women, how do you feel when you see a man cry? Because normally, if it ain't at church, I ain't seen a woman ever like it. I'm gonna be real.
You're putting on the glasses.
I gotta see them.
I actually appreciate. He put the glasses on now. I've actually appreciated it because it shows me that you're taking the time to be vulnerable. No. At the end of the day, it's all about vulnerability. It's all about breaking down. Because I can relate to that. I don't like crying in public. You could not catch me crying in public. I had to break down. I had to let that part of me go, and it's the same thing. It's way more trivial when it comes for a man, because it's like they're taught, man up, they're taught certain things in comparison to women. Women are taught to be soft and nurturing and this and that, be a girl. And then you have men who are taught to be hard, So it's like, no, I want to see that vulnerability, especially when you're with your mate, or that's, regardless if I'm your friend or not, I'm here to say, just let it out, because you have to let it go. Holding on to it, the biggest thing or the biggest regret that I did growing up was bottling it all in, not telling a soul what was going on with me or how I was feeling or what was affecting me. I took that on from, I would say, the age of 8 all the way until the age of 20 something, 27. And it blew up. And unfortunately, it blew up on my mother, but it blew up and it got out of hand, and I got disrespectful with it. And it's, and then you come off, I'm hard all the time. Why you always look like that? Why does your face depict, say, because I carry around, I can't get away with nothing because I carry it on my face. So the same thing with a man. When they walk around, they're tough. And that swag and that smooth and that finesse is there. I want to see, I'm the type of person to tap in and say, so what's underneath all that? What are you hiding?
Facts. Right.
Big facts.
That right there. Yeah, it's That's huge. Good. No, I mean, and Liz, you said it. I mean, in order to really let go and be real, cry, scream, yell, write, whatever, get it out. But as women, we put too much on men. They have to be like this, and not thinking that they're human too. They're emotional beings just like we are. And so letting them express themselves in whatever way that looks like, as women, we need to learn how to welcome that. So
crush the expectation out of what it is that you think that's going to happen with them versus letting them just go ahead and just be.
Man,
say
that again.
Really just allowing them to break down instead of you telling them what to do. Let them be whoever it is that they are. Just be, come to me when you're ready. I always had this thing where it's like, let's discuss something, this is that open window of where we can discuss it. Let's go. Let's talk it out. And then after that, we don't never have to touch on the issue again. Let's move forward. But some men, not all, are just not in agreement with that, and they don't want to discuss it because they think it's a sign of weakness. And everything goes back to being a sign of weakness. With that weakness, is exactly what's going to propel you.
Or or that's what they've been told in previous relationships, or the name calling and the not valuing them. And so when they get into something that's different, it's, it takes time for them to even feel comfortable with being able to share and to be able to talk about different things that, may be even triggers, but I know for me, I have a saying, and it's effective communication is the heartbeat to all relationships, because it literally is. That's the oil to the fire. Literally, if you're not talking, there's no order, there's no nothing. What are y'all doing?
Man, communication is everything. From money to talks to even just logistics in a house. I don't understand how some people talk. That is one of I have had to hit reset in my own house. I'm like, hold on, you didn't say this, son. You didn't say this, kid's mom. And I will get look, talk. It's free. I used to be homeless. You can talk. I ain't talking to let's raise the bill. I ain't saying let's go buy something new. It's free. Why can't you do something that's free? And so, Tim, I think maybe we got our next little segment on your show, man. We talk about emotions.
We do, bro.
Because even Hollywood, I mean, you think about like how hard it is for a Black man to cry or express emotions. I mean, look what John did in Boys in the Hood. I mean, it took, Cuba saying it ain't your fault, and he had to break down. That's how it always happens with a brother in a movie, and it's got to be this whole big old deal. You know, it ain't your fault that this is what's happened or this is your world. And, you know, a lot of what's happened to me ain't my fault.
That's
But
good.
that doesn't mean I don't take ownership in what I got to do moving forward.
Yeah.
And man, I don't know, we need to do something, Tim. I don't know. I feel motivated now. We got to get these cats talking. That it's all right.
Bro, it's coming. We got this.
Break down some walls.
We got this.
What's that, Liz?
Yeah, I love.
Yes.
I mean, but you know, when I first saw you, when I told Tim, I was like, he got the juice. He got fire, and so I did. I did.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because, you know, the ladies and I, we meet once a week. We talk about what we're going to do. And I threw out your name. And, you know, for them, they trust me. And I know Liz is like, yeah, he the real deal. I could tell on her face. See, I study Liz. I know Liz is her facial expressions. But, you know, because Liz knows me too. So, you know, this platform is about, you know, allowing for voices just to be heard. And you know, June is all about men, so it's to be able to you guys to the platform and about, you know, matters that pertain to your world, because you don't have healthy platforms like this. Maybe y'all can create something together.
We're working on it.
Yeah,
male perspective in no safe place.
Yeah, you got to, because men need to be just as free as women are when it comes to knowing who they are and the different challenges that we go through as women. We have a support group for you name it. There, somebody then created it, and so the same needs to be in the male community, but specifically the Black male community, to break some of these, you know, barriers. And I wish Onyx was in on this conversation. You know, maybe we'll have to have her back, because this is all that she does is in reference to activist movements and things that she's done in not just in Virginia and Atlanta. She's on it. So just being able to bring that perspective and the history into, you know, why men move the way they move, and just, you know, the patterns that we're seeing even in Black America. And I hate to say Black America, but until we really are the home of the free and the land of the brave, that's what we got going on.
You know, I think a lot of this too is, you know, just even the anger and frustration, just the culture has been raped so bad. And the other piece of that is, for men, there's so much anger that we've always been helpless and made to feel helpless, that, you know, we watch our culture get raped. We watch our children. We've been castrated. We've been, you know, our voice box has been taken away. So the only thing we could do was internalize and become angry. And we're talking generations of anger. We're talking every father abandons his child. That gives, you know, his son, that creates more anger. You know, every mother who's been, you know, had multiple men coming in and out of her house, that's created anger. I mean, there's so much anger. I mean, every young boy who's liked the cute girl in elementary school and she called him ugly, that's more anger. I mean, there's so much in Black men. I mean, that it's indescribable what we have on the inside of us. And y'all don't see it. Y'all see the manifestation of it. So this time in America, I mean, the rage. I mean, these young boys who've been growing up with no fathers in the 80s, where they took Black men for half an ounce of weed for just a joint, growing up so angry. I mean, we're just mad. And it's being in tune with, okay, this is anger, but it's killing my own people.
Right.
That's what we got to stop and do. I'm angry, but I'm pointing it at the wrong people.
Yeah.
I'm killing my wife. I'm killing my girl. I'm killing my children. And if we could just stop for a moment and look, like you said, Michael, it ain't working. Put brakes on it. And I think COVID is doing this, because these conversations are making us look inwards more and more.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, it's a godsend. Nobody hates it, man.
Indeed. That's good.
That's true.
Man, Tim, on that, especially because of COVID, and you're right, the anger, all the frustrations. I mean, look at Bill Cosby. That dude ended up being one of the worst cats, right? Rape, drugs, and everything. But he's Bill Cosby,
Right.
Look at all the
Right.
things he did, who he was marching with, all the steps he had to take to be perfect. And so at the end, they had to take his name through the mud. But he still did the wrong things. He had all the success, but he still had that anger. He still had the frustrations. He still had to walk with Panthers. He still had to walk with Kane.
Yep.
And so one thing that I talk about, that is real unique recently is about COVID. And I'm going to take these off again because I can't even see myself. It looks weird. It's for the first time that
I'm going to see to my contact.
I got contacts. I'm just not wearing them today. It's COVID, man. COVID changed a lot of shit for our world. COVID, for the first time ever, rich, poor, white, black, American, European, African, everybody in the world had an experience with COVID.
Yep.
Everybody's got a story. And for some weird reason, this pandemic, because we all still wear the mask, brought our world together in a most unique way. Because we didn't have social media before. We didn't have, pen pals and things back in the 1900s. You had unbelievable amount of segregation and segmentation of the human culture. And now that we're more connected than ever, we're both in technology. You and I both know it's the only thing man has truly created. We've harnessed everything else. And it has no boundaries. But it ties us together in a way when even if we stay in one wall, we can be connected with everyone else, with millions in seconds. And Black Lives Matter is now in a very unique way because now white culture gets to chime in because they now know what it's like to be a part of something, something that experience and creates fault to them. I hate what COVID is. I hate all the loved ones that have been lost. And I hope to continue and pray that we don't lose any more than we should. But the fact that we as a human culture has come together on something, and the fact to see NFL, we had it wrong. Sign Kaepernick, get Colin that money, okay? Give him a coaching job. I don't care what he needs to do. If you were wrong, write it. Don't just say it. And what I hate right now more than anything, even though it is a culture and we're all coming together, Black Lives Matter does matter. People are trying to say it wrong. I think, ladies, you were saying it when I was waiting on all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. Somehow people don't get that. If you wear a breast cancer ribbon, it's not someone sums up and says, well, don't say breast cancer is important. All cancers are important. No, that's not what people do. But what I cannot stand right now, especially as especially as a black man who works hard in the corporate world, is all these companies being fake, saying, we don't agree with that. We're going to put a letter out and we're going to do this marketing push. Damn it, let me see your leadership of Black folks. Let me see your people of color in leadership. Practice what you preach. Don't just put that thing out because it's cool. I mean, we all got the emails with COVID, with UPS and everyone else saying, here's how we're going to practice social distancing and contactless delivery with DoorDash. Thanks. Show me how you're going to practice what you preach when it comes to Black Lives Matter. Don't just donate money. It's no different than Stu Buffett just saying, here's 25 grand to 10 nonprofits. Why don't you just give 2.5 million to one nonprofit to actually alleviate the issue, to get the cause out of the community, not just treat the symptom? I'm tired of that type of stuff. And folks don't ever want to have that type of talk. So for me, I'm glad to see that COVID brought us together as a collective front, especially from a social media perspective and the power behind that to put pressure on these folks. I mean, police departments losing funding. Wow. I never thought I'd see that in my life.
Yes.
But
everywhere.
Even here in Nebraska, y'all probably heard of Bernie Chambers and all the things that he said and done. He's a very educated, smart cat.
Yeah.
But he finally put a state law where police officers have to go through racial and cultural education from state troopers, county sheriffs, and city police have to go through that, because you don't understand what those people are going through. And if you don't understand what they're going through, you don't understand maybe why they're making a decision that they are. And I talk about all the time about these young men out here in the streets. It's like, do you understand that they're making a decision to pay their bills as opposed to, do I want to be a bad kid? I mean, what's that like?
Wow.
And so if you take that conversation and say, how are we going to police our community? I said, maybe we don't need to police our community. Maybe we need to look in and listen to our community. It's very different.
Yeah.
And so
that part. Yeah.
I know I'm going off on a tangent on this, but I'm just so tired of this marketing lip service stuff. You know, we're going to put 25 in or whatever. I think NL said they're going to put in racial disparity and DEI, which is good. I'm glad they are. But I don't need a handout. I need your policies to change. I need who you're hiring to change. The community doesn't just need money. If that was the case, all these philanthropic folks would be doing it, because develop in our communities. They would be pushing businesses in our community. We would get those franchises in our community. It ain't about spending the money. It's about the disparities and policy. And voting is going to be the biggest way to do that. Or yelling at these folks to get the changes in the funds. I saw a comment come up. I can't be patient, so dropping bombs over here.
Yeah. And this is huge. I mean, because some of these companies are sincere, but we don't know, you know, and this is a marketing scheme. It's a marketing tool, you know, and you know, we got the stimulus money that some people are just getting, and so it's just sad that some people lack of education, and they, you know, not being aware of what's really going on, or their perception of it might be a little skewed based on ABC 1, 2, 3, and some are more stubborn than others and just don't want to come up a little bit higher. And you know, we're gonna experience this, but you know, will we ever see where everybody understands the emotions and feelings around being Black in America? No.
Man.
Now, will we be able to make it more clearer? Yes. But will they ever be sold out to it? No.
What was that? There was a show, I think it was A View, and it was a lady.
It was some other lady.
But she said, I don't need to understand everything.
Right.
I just need you to make the policies that stop kills us.
Yeah.
You know, the system, you know, she was like, I don't have time to teach you.
Yeah.
Like, this information is out there.
Yeah.
If you want to learn what's going on with us, go look it up. You know, I don't want to be your spokesperson. I don't want to sit up and explain. If you're really serious, pull up Google, dig, go find out who our Black leaders are. Go find out what happened yourself. Then come back to me and let's talk now. Yeah. But I got to take you all from the beginning. That's a whole 2-3 hour conversation just to pull you up.
Yeah.
You're not serious if you don't do the work.
That's good. Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely, Tim. And I had a former friend of mine, because we segmented after this conversation. He, a couple years ago, when Barack was still in office, my president, and he said, well, what are you complaining about? My point. He said, what are you complaining about? A Black man can be president. What do you need now? Aren't we all equal now? And I said, man, that's the most privileged statement you've ever made. And he says, well, how is that even possible? And I said, do you not understand privilege? And he's like, you mean like my dad got me a job? I said, absolutely. Now let's talk about your dad. Let's talk about your dad's dad, and so on and so on. So I'm half white, right? So I definitely understand this. On my brother's side, on my white brother's side, they have a coat of arms. Go all the way back to Germany and where they're from, right? Love, respect them, that's cool. he knows his family on his dad's side goes and comes from multiple generations before they even got on a boat to come here voluntarily to be here. You know what I mean? We know where his family comes from, the type of people that they come from, the type of work that they've done, and that's what we care about. It no different than when you had, they had the Kente Plus, what tribe are you from?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, less than
Right.
100 years ago, my family had just free enough to be a sharecropper on a person's farm down in southern Arkansas, to barely have enough and be mixed with Washita Native American. And we don't know where we come from. Other than 23andMe, I know I'm Aryan, and that's it. That's it. And I said, imagine if you walk into a bank and you've got references for 5 generations, and I have no references to friends, no, nothing like that. You have a coat of arms. You know where you come from. Don't. And that's in 100 years. You're going back 5, 6, 7 generations. Don't talk to me about privilege, because if we go into a bank and ask for a loan, who are they going to get the loan to? The person who's got the generations and the distance and talks about their resume, their CV, or is it going to be someone that says, "Oh, I'm the new guy"? Nope. We'll push you down to the bank that has a higher interest rate. We'll push you down to the insurance company that's got a higher rate, and we'll approve you for a house in this zip code. Redlining 101.
Yeah.
And when I made that point to him, he's like, "That's not how it works." And I said, "That's you having wool over your eyes." That's the type of shit we got to deal with being a black man in America. And you got to educate those folks. When you talk about Googling, Tim, man, look, like I said, in politics, I'd worked my entire life to be where I'm at. You just had to fill out a name on a piece of paper. I'm tired of that type of paper.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
And that anger. And if you ain't careful, that'll turn you angry. Even add to what's already there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm using it as fuel to my fire. I definitely have some frustrations. Anger, no. But I think a lot of folks need to be educated on that, because I have a very unique perspective, because in my side of the family, I got to educate both sides, because I have racism going both ways. And it's unique. It's unique at times where I've got to be the ringleader.
Yeah.
I feel like T-Pain in here. Okay.
Mediator.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been so rich. I mean, Liz, I really think we need to have a part 2 of this and, take it to a bigger platform. I mean, because there's so many voices out there that need to be heard and to receive this information and things of that nature. So what we're going to do, Liz, we're going to save your segment for next week, and we're just going to go ahead and end the show with some parting words that you guys have. And then it's because we were way over, but it was way worth it. So if you guys want to share some parting words and maybe some words of encouragement, wisdom, whatever words you want to leave the others with. I'll start with you, Michael.
Man, I'm talking so much. I was ready to just be quiet. Sorry, y'all. Can you tell that my father's side of the family are pastors, and I have the gift of gab, they call it there. I want to say to anybody watching, it's okay to be angry right now. It's okay to not know how you feel that now that people are listening to you and understand what is really happening. I hate the long list of especially black men and women that have been killed by police brutality and strength. But now is that time to channel that, to use it constructively, to engage your elected officials, to bring people around you that are like-minded and talk with them, share with them, to cry, to hold, to vent. Damn it, just to laugh, even if you can throw some bones down and have some yak. Now's the time that we need to be a community and we need to be together. And so for me, I really appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate the work that you shared as women earlier, sharing on this. For me, my biggest takeaway is I feel like we need to do more, Tim. I think we need to partner up. I support you somehow, and we need to get our men talking. as young men, as fathers, as grandfathers, all perspectives to come together, man, and share their stories, because eventually we're going to be grandpas, eventually we're going to have kids, our kids going to have kids. And, you know, a great family is not what I came from, but one will come from me. And I'm going to do what I can. So I really appreciate today, y'all. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're back. Please do that.
Yeah.
Yes. Anytime.
We'll need you to come back.
Right.
Y'all, he'll be back. No worries.
Yeah, I mean, I really just piggyback on Michael and just being angry. And during this time, I think, you know, that level of anger is especially in our young people, and I've been on these different calls, they're mad. And I just would encourage, you know, women, you know, all of us to start creating safe spaces to be mad. I was just on a call with Felicia Webster, shout out if she's watching. It was just called Safe Black Spaces. And all they did was just let it out. I mean, they were mad. And so if we can just find a place to be mad and then say, okay, now strategy next.
That's good. I love it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Liz, any party words today?
I think the one thing that we, you know, piggybacking off of everything on that end, let's turn around and use that anger into creativity. Really take it into, you know, whatever field that you're in, really start to dive into it and really use that voice or art or, you know, beats, things of that nature, whatever it is that you're into, channel that anger into that, you know, creative side, because that art that comes from it, that right there may heal the next person or heals the next person, and it creates this domino effect and this momentum that it really starts to impact the world. So if anything left on that end, yeah, definitely start using it in more of a creative side, because you never know who it's going to bless, and it may help you get rid of this anger that's locked inside, and all those frustrations. So yeah, most definitely. And share it.
I love that. And share it. Yeah. You know me, being the identity coach, all things that I talk about is just owning your truth and allowing your truth to be your truth no matter what. And so, you know, during these times, and I think we've all said it, you know, if you're mad, you're frustrated, you know, or you're in this place of looking to figure out, you know, answers. And, you know, answers may just be, you know, digging inside of yourself and, you know, doing some self-work and kind of seeing how you can, you know, like you said, Liz, contribute to being a change agent, because people are hurting out here and they need what we have. And so just being able to do a little more research on self and to see what you can discover to be able to, you know, help your fellow sisters, whether they look like you or not, be able to understand the times that we're in, or your brothers that look like you or not. Because what I'm learning is that people are awake. They're definitely out. They're looking, they're listening. They want to be more active. They want their voices to be heard. They're no longer sitting on their hands saying, what am I going to do? You know, so, you know, this is definitely a time of momentum. And this is not the time to drop the ball or the woe is me and become the victim. This is the time to rise up and really own your truth and to be able to share what's inside of you, to be able to cultivate the communities that need what we have. So that's what I would say.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Hey.
Hallelujah.
Well, again, you learn. You'll be back, sir. You'll be back. There's more for the both of y'all to share. I'm excited to see what y'all are going to come up with together, because now is the time, you know. Your voices need to be heard, and there's just some men who are just waiting for a healthy shove to be pushed out. And I really believe the two of you guys coming together to be able to do that, and just starting locally in Omaha, man, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Because you guys have the gift for gab, and both have the gifts. Yeah, they both have the gifts to really want to cultivate their communities. And a lot of people talk about how they want to bring change, but they're not willing to do nothing about it but talk. And so, that's not who the both of you are. And so it's going to be exciting to see what this is going to look like and how you guys are going to come back to the platform and share what y'all have been working on and, figure out how we can, I'm speaking to the existence because it needs to happen. And what better time than now? So,
man,
thank you
sounds
guys.
like we've got a big donor already for our show.
Man, you see that, right?
Yeah, we got
Look,
an executive producer in the house.
Look, well, hey, we can talk offline. I can share with my to hire me to do some work like that. No, but seriously, I'm thankful for these healthy talks and being able to come and share. And I'm really excited for those who are going to catch the replay and be able to really sit and who may have seen this live and maybe I missed something and be able to watch it and really, allow for them to dig deeper by just listening to the words of wisdom that have been dropped on this platform. So thank you guys again. Vault Talks Women Share. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about what it looks like to be a Black father in America.
Ooh-wee.
So during these times, so we're excited. Yeah, we got you. What'd you say?
Mr. Young looks like he needs to come back.
Yeah, they both want to come back. I think they're gonna be with us. I think they're gonna be with us for the month. What you think, Liz? They gonna want to be with us for the month.
Yup. Perfect. Let's go.
So the fourth Saturday we're gonna be talking about he said, she said, they share. So we're gonna have the men come on and talk about relationships. I mean, last month we talked about why people cheat. So we were thinking about doing a part 2. So Mike, if you in for the ride, vroom vroom, let's go.
He got it. I see him.
So y'all heard it here. We got Mike and Timothy Moore with us the rest of the month here on Vault Talk. So it's gonna be lit. Let's get it. So we're excited. Look, you trying to work for a permanent spot, Mike. I see you. We see you.
Okay, I'm in. Look, I ain't scared. Okay, I don't play. I quit school because of recess.
I love it. So thank you guys for tuning in and being a part of Vault Talks, and we're out.
All right.
Bye, y'all. Stay well.